So I realized this a long time ago, but you can't trust real estate agents, okay? And by the way, I have a friend. He watches all my videos and he's also a real estate agent, and I trust this guy with my life in a sense, okay? But as far as, for example, when it comes to the real estate market, what I realized over a long period of time is basically real estate agents are always looking for action because they make money via action, not via you waiting to make a move, okay? Now, there are honest real estate agents out there, but the whole game is set up for some action. Whether it is a buyer's market, when rates are basically high, demand slows down, and we can now go ahead and buy at a discount, guess what? Real estate agents are going to motivate us to take advantage of the opportunity. Whether it is a seller's market, because now rates are low, everyone is going crazy because they want to buy a home because the mortgage rates are very low. Real estate agents going to say, hey, it's a perfect time to go ahead and sell because, again, everything this market demands is action, action, action. And by the way, I remember reading a book or watching a documentary. Sometimes I can't even tell the difference, okay? But it was called Freakonomics, and it basically showed that real estate agents, whenever they sell their homes, they sell it for more money because they're more patient. Whenever they sell a home of a client, they sell it for less money because they're less patient and they want to make a commission very quickly, very fast. It's just biases, okay? It's like a barber. You cannot trust your barber. If you go into your barber shop, they're gonna say, hey, you definitely need like a haircut, even though you're just fine, okay? It's just how the game plays out. So in this video right here, I don't want you to think about, for example, the whole economy. I want you to be selfish. I want you to only think about yourself as an individual and what you should be doing as far as, do I buy a home or do I not buy a home? What's the good news and what is the bad news? That's what we're going to talk about right here in this video. As always, guys, like this video and top out also subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified. Now, the very first thing, guys, is this, okay? Tommy, what type of market are we in right now? First of all, I'll tell you, but I really want you guys to understand something. It doesn't matter. When I was trying to buy my home, we were in basically a seller's market, but I did not care because when I bought my home, I bought it based on individual financial factors, meaning could I buy the home? If the answer was yes, I would buy it. I was not worried about trying to time the market, waiting for a real estate crash or anything like that because, again, it was my personal home. But right now, we're in this very weird place because in reality, it's like a buyer's market, but it's kind of not. And here's why. It's kind of crazy, okay? But buyer's markets is whenever, for example, the buyer has an advantage over the seller. We can basically buy at a discount, usually. And this happens because when the Fed rates go up, it becomes more expensive to basically borrow money. Thus, demand tends to slow down. But because of the whole COVID-19 thing that happened in the past, guess what? We had a whole bunch of inventory troubles. Thus, for example, you have less inventory, basically less homes available, but you also have, for example, higher rates. So it's kind of like you have still a steady demand for those homes, but you have increase in rates, so it's more expensive. So it has not really crashed like it should crash because we have, for example, such a limited amount of inventory. But that's not true for all markets, and we're going to talk about that later in this video. But the core is, right now we have a weird scenario where we have the perfect storm for a buyer's market, but we still have a seller's market because we still have not that much inventory available. So it's kind of like, we're kind of like at a market where it's kind of like just steadfast, not really moving that much whatsoever. But if you have cash, that always moves the needle because cash just make things different, okay? And being available to look at different things also make things very different also. But here's where location comes into play because in certain areas, for example, like Austin, Texas, and by the way, I remember looking at Austin, Texas before the pandemic, and it was such a different real estate market. I remember looking at homes that were like 200,000, 300,000, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, condos available. Everything was so cool, okay? And I was like, I might consider Austin. And by the way, back then, I was considering Austin because basically I was going to move to save money in taxes. Basically, New York was too expensive. And I was like, Austin might be good, Florida might be good, Puerto Rico might be good. Spoiler alert, I live in Puerto Rico now, okay? Moved to Puerto Rico. The best option I possibly could have made. But overall, you had places like Austin where they basically were looking forward to so much demand where they basically just built a whole bunch of new homes. Thus, because of all this new inventory, and basically now we're having a lack of demand because rates are going up, obviously, we're coming into a buyer's market. We're looking at, for example, potentially double-digit declines in the next like 3 to 4 months or whatever. That is the news. So basically, Austin in that market might become a good opportunity to buy at a discount. But here is a disclaimer, because whenever, for example, I was looking at homes back then in Austin, Texas, and they were basically like 200K, 300K. Well, now the average home in Austin is like $400,000, above $300,000, $500,000. They're very expensive, okay? So even if it drops by 20%, it does not mean it's back to normal price. It's still expensive relative to what it used to be. But what it used to be could not be what it's going to be ever again, because we also flooded the entire market with a bunch of money. Here's what I'm saying, guys, okay? There are so many new factors like inflation, like the Fed rate is basically up. Also, for example, lack of inventory, that basically we have a storm where we don't really know exactly what's going to happen overall, if these new prices are going to stick or if they're not going to stick. But potentially they're not going to stick as far as being so inflammatory, but they will have to go down to what the normal price should be based on new inflation numbers, okay? Because that's also very important to consider. But my recommendation would be a simple one, okay? If you're looking to buy a home and they're very expensive, wherever you are, be open to the idea to looking at metro areas if you're into the city or urban lifestyle, whatever you're into, but just look into different areas of the market where they were building a lot of properties, but now demand kind of slowed down. That could give you a big chance to basically acquire something for a decent, affordable price. Because I don't know when it became normal to basically have a mortgage for like 45 years, because it kind of feels like that. Because imagine having to buy a home for like $500,000 when they used to be like 300K or 400K. And everybody thinks that's normal because paying $500,000 is no big deal. That's a lot of money. The average individual makes like $2 million in a lifetime. That's a lot of money. $500,000 is a lot of money, not including, for example, interest and taxes and repairs, all the things that go into actually buying a home, owning a home, maintaining a home, and everything else, okay? But that is from a big factor. That's the big part of economics. Here's a small factor. Here's where you come into play as an individual and what I actually recommend for you, okay? So first of all, remember, okay, whenever you're buying a home, you want to take a look at your personal finances, your personal economics. I think that's called micro, not macroeconomics, okay? But it's microeconomics. Is that the right way to say it? I think it's microeconomics, but it's looking at your personal pocket. My recommendation is always use the 33% rule. That's 33% rule on a 15-year mortgage, and you buy a home once you're debt free and once you have also a fully funded emergency account. This gives you a big stability factor, and it gives you a lot of safety and confidence, because a lot of folks that buy a home, they add a big bill to their to their expenses, and now they're like, okay, I own this big house, big mortgage. It's just like this thing in Texas to say, big hat, no cattle. It's kind of like you have this big home, but you have no way to finance it in a sense. So actually pay for these things. And it's a big problem because it stresses you the heck out. But if you buy a home and you're debt free, you have less demands in your cash. If you buy a home and you have, for example, emergency account fully funded, you have time to kind of figure things out if you do lose your job, which will happen at a point in your lifetime. So once you buy the home, you try to put down 10, 20%, put down 20%, you avoid, what is it, like IPM? Private mortgage insurance, PMI, I don't know what I was thinking. Private mortgage insurance. You avoid private mortgage insurance. Sometimes I get so confused with all the little numbers or whatever. But PMI, letters. PMI, right? Private mortgage insurance. You get to avoid that, which saves you thousands of dollars as far as, for example, spending money to cover their butts and not actually your butt, because private mortgage insurance is not for you, it's actually for the lenders, okay? On top of that, if you buy a home on a 15-year mortgage, and guess what? It's actually going to limit how much home you can actually buy. And if you actually buy it where it's only a third of your monthly net income, it also has less demand on your income, because it's only a third. It's not half your income. It's not that much of it. So if you do lose some of your income, you can kind of go ahead and make that back and be able to afford the home. The point is, the home is such a big factor in finance and money that you want to make sure we actually go ahead and buy a home. It's not actually going to be like this nightmare, because it always feels like a dream until you actually own it. it actually becomes a blessing because you did everything beforehand to be able to know you can afford it and to make sure you can keep paying it off as you keep going ongoing. Okay, that's the whole idea. So from a point of Tommy, what's going on? This is terrible news whatsoever. The terrible news is that home prices they're up. Okay, it's kind of expensive. The second bad news is basically rates are going up for so the average person. Guess what? Have to pay up some more money in interest. But if you buy a home with your personal financial factors, you can actually afford to actually buy it. And then home prices basically go, well, mortgage rates actually go down by a lot in the future. You can basically just refinance if math actually makes sense. But the point is, whenever you buy based on your personal financial factors. And if you can save up 10%, that's fine. But if you can save up 20% to avoid PMI, that's even better because it saves you even a ton of money. But that could have you saving up for a long time. So just make sure. And you should be open to buying in a different location from where you actually live. Everyone is always so afraid of that. And I was afraid of it at a point too because I was like, I'm in New York, I want to buy something in New York. But in New York, it's like $700,000. It's very expensive. In Puerto Rico, it was $130,000. Put some money on it, got the home I want. Or in Florida, $300K. In Texas now, 400,000. It's insane. Okay, so much money is ridiculous. But the point is, do your personal math. And don't pay attention to, for example, what the real estate agent says or what anybody else is saying. Make sure you can actually afford this thing yourself. And when you go to the bank with your personal numbers already in your head. Because they could probably pre-approve you for a big mortgage. That's not what you want. Again, the home you buy, the mortgage should not be more than 30% of your monthly income. That's the mortgage, that's the insurance on it, whether it's private mortgage insurance or your regular insurance, on top of taxes and also maintenance. All those things should not be more than a third of your monthly income. On a 15-year mortgage, to pay it off as fast as possible, being debt free first, and also have an emergency account. Whenever you buy a home this way, the home is a blessing. It is not a burden, but it's not going to be your dream home. But your dream home should be the home you can afford, not the home that looks fancy on TikToks. All right, that is it for this video. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, comment down below house so I know you made it all the way to the end. Up here is another video. Over here is my face. And as always, long-term team officially out. This is my fanny pack. I always got a fanny pack on. Peace.